What is up, guys? It's Brillymister here and welcome to today's video. If you do enjoy the video, then don't forget to drop a like, leave a comment and subscribe, and hit all the links up down below to Twitch and Discord. Enjoy the video. What is up, everybody, and welcome to today's video. Today's video is going to be 5 great bosses to help you make back some of the GP that you might have spent over double XP weekend. Before we get into the video, I want to give a quick shout out to the channel memberships. I've recently set up some channel memberships for this channel. There'll be a link in the description below. If you'd like to directly support the channel, you can do through that link, and you'll get some cool little emotes and some little badges as well to go next to your name, alongside some other really cool little perks as well. Anyway, guys, enjoy the video. So before we go ahead and get into my recommendations, I just want to do a quick disclaimer as always. There probably are better money makers out there. I imagine camping Telos at 4k in Rage is probably significantly better GP per hour than all of this. And there may ever be some like skilling and just non-sort of PVM related ways that are better GP. So, you know, if you have something that works for you, go for it. These are just 5 fairly solid examples, and I've chosen them because they go across a range of difficulties, so whether you're a high end game player or just sort of starting to get into PVM, there'll be something here for you. And the last one is, at the end of the day, it is my personal opinion. You may disagree with me, and I would like to hear some of your suggestions in the comments down below. If you do, it'd be really interesting to see what some other people think. So the first boss on the list, and as I'm saying, we're doing these in no particular order today, not best to worst or anything like that, is kind of the more lower level entry sort of option into this, and that's going to be Kree'arra. It comes onto this because it's pretty nice. It's quite AFKable if you've got decent gear, and even if you've got, you know, somewhat average gear, it's still fairly AFKable, if not semi-AFKable. You're able to do it at a lot more lower levels than some of these other things on the list, and it still gives you decent GP per hour. 5 to 6 mil per hour on average is pretty good. It does, though, however, rely on rare drops. If you don't get a rare drop in that hour, your GP per hour is going to be pretty bad. But if you do get a rare drop, or you know, you get a lucky hour, you get 3 or 4 rare drops, you make a lot more that hour. But on overall, sort of average out over a long period of time, probably about 5 to 6 mil GP per hour, which is pretty decent. I think I averaged just over 6 mil GP per hour when I did my loot from 10 hours here at Kree'arra. But yeah, it's definitely a good entry level one, and still, if you want to AFK and make some decent GP, it's not a bad option. Next up on my list is Nex. Nex used to be one of my favourite bosses. I haven't done it as much as I used to for a little while now, but it's still a boss that I really do enjoy. It's really good because it can be very good money, either done solo or duo. The kill times doing this duo now are like ridiculous. It's crazy how much of almost like a joke this boss has become compared to like back before EOC, when if you could trio it before EOC, you'd be there with your chaotic kite shield and your chaotic crossbow and like your Elysian spirit shield. And when you were doing it in a trio, you were like a pretty high-end PVMer, whereas now you can solo it easily. In a duo, it's like literally as a joke now. You just absolutely power for it. It's also good because it makes it accessible for a lot lower levels if you're doing it with duo, or if you have a higher level friend that you can go with and will help take you through it. The rare drops there are also fairly common. It's about a 1 in 30 drop rate, approximately. Obviously, you know, you can always go on dry streaks or get very lucky. I think I had an hour there where I got like 4 or 5 drops in an hour, which was absolutely awesome. But then there's also been times where I've gone 4 or 5 hours dry. The one good thing about Nex is that the common drops there are still fairly decent. You know, there is always going to be the stone spirits and like the troll drops, which are absolute junk. But a majority of the drops, like the green D-hides, onyx bolts, even the bruise drop, which used to be the old school troll drop, even that now is pretty good. It's like 600k. If you take notepaper with you or an empty yak or something to fill it up, then you'll make a lot of money just from the common drops here, which is pretty awesome. The fact that the rare drops are so common here as well means that you are pretty much guaranteed, if you go at it for long enough, to get 1 or 2 of them, which will definitely boost your GP quite a lot. Some of them are really expensive as well. Like I know some of the Torva pieces are like 80 mil-ish, and they're very, very good. Nex is a very good boss for making nice GP, and it's one that you can start off duo and then slowly move into soloing, and it'll be good GP for you either way. So next up is Gregorovic. This is another one which is a slightly more AFKable one, or it's actually relatively AFK, although that AFK does come with a pretty substantial asterisk, and that is that you will need quite a specialised action bar for it, and you will need some high-end gear, like you're going to be using a full-on Vamp Scrimshaw, trimmed masterwork, etc. to be able to AFK it. Although you can do it not AFK with a lot lower gear. I know I do it on my Iron Man quite happily in like Bandos or Elder Runar with a lance, and it works completely fine. I just have to bank a little bit and it's not very AFK. But if you've got high-end gear, it is very nice and AFK. It's also very, very good GP at the moment. Ever since Greater Ricochet came out and people want Karaming, the crests and the glaives have shot through the roof in price. So it maintains a very, very easy 8 to 10 mil an hour, pretty much completely AFK, which is awesome. If you are interested in learning this, I do have a full AFK Greg guide, which goes into the action bar and everything more in detail of what you need for this. But yeah, you need good gear to be able to do it AFK, but you can get into it a little bit lower, and again, it's probably something that will be fairly decent duo, but you're not going to get anywhere near the GP rate, and it won't be as AFKable. So the penultimate boss that I'm going to recommend to you guys today is one that I've been really enjoying and doing a fair amount of lately, and that is Elite Dungeon 1, or Seiryu to be precise. With this, it's probably the highest level one that we've got on the list, but you can easily exceed 20 mil an hour. You can probably average about 20 mil an hour if you're doing 2 runs an hour. But if you're good and a lot high level, I can't personally do this, you can get 3 runs in per hour, and then you can easily average sort of 30-40 mil an hour. The scales are still maintaining a nice price around 800k. They're not quite the 900k that they used to be, but they're still definitely very, very good. And in a solo, you get a minimum of 4, but you average sort of like 9 per run, so yeah, about that. But then you can get very lucky and you get up to 110, which then can be doubled by the chest, or the chance to double. So you can get up to 220 scales if you do get very, very lucky, and that is a pretty substantial amount of GP if you do get that. The most I've got is around 70, but you can quite frequently will get 30 plus, which is very nice. It does, however, have quite a high gear and skill requirement to be able to solo it. It's probably the highest level sort of thing on this list, but it's very well worth learning. The only bad things about this is that it is quite bad GP in a group, because unlike the other elite dungeons like ED3 and ED2, ED2 you've got the chance of codexes and stuff like that, which even then, it's a big ticket item split, so it doesn't really matter that you don't get much draconic energy. And the same with ED3, no one likes the Blackstone Hearts, they're terrible GP anyway. Most of your money comes from if you get an Eldritch Crossbow, which you can split, so they're still pretty decent to do in a group. Whereas here, if you do it in a group, all your money basically comes from the scales at the end, and all it does doing it in a group, instead of giving you a minimum of 4 scales and being less, it basically means that you get like 1 scale if you're lucky, maybe 2, and it basically kills the GP per hour. It's good if you want to learn it, but again, it's probably better off just learning solo, and then you know you can do it. Then just put the effort in and take a few deaths. It's definitely well worth learning. The other one is it's not repetitive like the other bosses, because you're not just killing the same boss over and over again. You got to run through and do the whole dungeon. You got 3 little different bosses in there. You got the Sanctum Guardian, you got Masuta, and then you got Seiryu, and you got all the little creatures in between. And that makes it a little bit more enjoyable. It's a lot less grindy than just doing one boss over and over again for GP. So the last thing, but by no means least on the list, is a boss that I've recently started getting really back into, and it is the Magister. It's absolutely great GP per hour. It's about 20 mil per hour average on approximately, although this does require, it depends a bit on luck. It could be a little bit more, could be a little bit less, depends how many keys you take to get a full Khopesh. It does have quite a high requirement in requiring level 115 Slayer to actually be able to do it, and a little bit of learning to be able to sort of DPS through it and not use too much food so you can take a decent amount of keys with you. The only negative to this boss really is that it does require a lot of upfront GP. You're going to use at least 400 to 600 keys depending on your luck to complete a Khopesh, and it's a pretty substantial loss until you complete and sell the Khopesh. Like the standard drops do not compensate for the fact that you're spending 650 to 700k per time on a key. So once you start it, you are committed to finishing the Khopesh, which will take you about 8 to 10 hours depending how quickly you kill it. Once you get into it and are fairly decent at it, you should be able to average somewhere between sort of like a minute to 40-second kills, or 40 seconds to a minute kills. So it doesn't take too long to finish a Khopesh, but it does require some upfront GP, and that is something that you guys should be aware of. It's also quite chilled as a boss, and it's almost like a DPS dummy basically. If you can do enough damage, then you can avoid some of the mechanics like having the minions spawn and stuff like that, and you'll use basically no food because you can soul split all of it back. I recently tried it with range as well. I used to only ever mage it, and it's pretty nice with range. If you have range and greater ricochet and all that stuff, you might want to give it a go if you've not tried it yet. It's very fun. So before we end the video, I want to say thank you very much for watching, guys. I really hope you did enjoy it. If you did enjoy the video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to this channel so you can be notified of all my future content. And down below in the description are links to my Twitch and my Discord. Look forward to seeing some of you guys there as well. Until next time, guys, see ya.